Hey guys, so this is going to be an in-depth video. Basically, I'm a little bit pissed off. Not pissed off, it's just how idiotic some people can be on the internet. So if you know, I am an ambassador for Just Strong. Now, I've mentioned this, I might have mentioned this before, but the problems you get when a company, so there's a sponsored athlete and there's an ambassador. Obviously, with a sponsored athlete, they tend to vet, like, they don't pick anyone to be a sponsored athlete. They obviously vet them, to make sure that they're going to represent the company well and stuff like that, because they're paying them. Whereas with an ambassador, they will literally take anyone, because as an ambassador, they just want you to sell the product pretty much. So they will take anyone on. Usually with an ambassador, when you apply, they say they'll look into your account, but you'll get approved the same day. And obviously I've had some issues with that, where people have asked for advice on this group. So it's a group with all just strong ambassadors. And there was one video, I don't know if I mentioned it, I'll mention it again, where this girl was doing an arm curl or bicep curl standing up, where you got some people stating obviously she's moving her body too much, and then you got other people saying it's perfect, which it was not perfect. She was moving her body, it was like obvious. And it was like, maybe you should have vet your ambassadors a little bit more, because it's just not fair. But anyway, this one peeved me off. And if you don't know who Just Strong, it's a group that represents women. So they just sell women's clothes, now kids clothes, but like kids girl clothes, should I say. And they're going into the supplements a little bit, because they've come up with pre-workouts. Personally, when a company does that, I don't really, do they really know much about supplements from just selling gym clothes to selling supplements? I always have a question mark over that. But anyway, that's not what I want. So this woman posted the picture. So I don't know if you've heard, but this runner called Semenya, who is constantly, she's obviously a female athlete, she's a runner, but there's been a sort of question mark on her. So basically, this is rare, but it does happen, but she's actually a woman who's born with more testosterone than the average woman. So obviously in males and in sports anyway, testosterone is an advantage when it comes to sports or any physical activity. And basically, they've ruled and said if she wants to carry on competing, then she needs to take some medication which will help reduce the testosterone levels. Now, a lot of people are against this, and it's kind of annoying because a lot of the comments are stupid. Now, this picture that's up on here will show you how stupid people are, because this is the exact picture that was posted on the group, and it was like, you're comparing two things that don't even go together. Like, what are you doing? So as I said before, it is rare for a woman for it to happen, but there have also been other cases, which I think it may be her case, because if you do look at her face, without being offensive, she does look more on the male side. Like, her face isn't that feminine, if that makes any sense, without trying to come across as offensive. But there has been times, as again, this is rare, where babies are born with two genders, and this is where the parents have to choose. Obviously, in this situation, she probably was just born with more testosterone. But obviously, there's other cases where kids are born with, like, you think it's a boy, but oh, it's got a womb. And obviously, the parents have to make the decision, and do we cut off the privates and make her a girl, or is she meant to be a male, whatever. That it happens, but it is rare. Now, because it is rare, the chances of another, bear in mind she's won like literally every race, the chances of a woman being able to beat her is very low. I mean, it could happen, but it is rare. So that's why this ruling had happened. So when it comes to sports and everything, they don't just look at, oh, there's female and male. They have to look at the biological function of that person. So most women will have low testosterone, and because hers is high, and as a rarity as high, it's going to be an unfair advantage. She's going to have the upper hand, and obviously because performance enhancing drugs are, they're illegal, and well, not illegal, but they're banned, should I say. I was trying to look for the word. They're banned in that particular sport. Women that are against her can't go up to her level to have a chance at beating her because it's banned. So that is the reason why. I get why people are hurt, but it makes sense. When it comes to sports, again, it's not who you identify of, it's gender. She obviously identifies as a female, but if she want, you know what I mean, it's to give the other competitors a fair advantage. Now, someone also commented, well, why can transgenders compete? This is still a question mark, but if a transgender has gone through all the mechanics, taking hormones, again, there's still a question mark on that, but they've taken all the hormones and they've been tested and they're at the same level as all the, like a normal female, then they can compete. Again, some people say it's still an advantage because the testosterone they were born with, but in the federal's eyes, or do you call them federals, but in the sort of sports law, in their eyes, they're at the same level. So leave it as that. There's still, obviously, when it comes to if they're not officially had, their hormones, and obviously there's still a boat. There was an incident, I don't fully know the names, but this female powerlifter, she competed, broke all these records, but didn't tell anyone she was transgender. And obviously, when be or win at a competition, you always get tested to double check you're not on any banned substance. That's when they found out that she was actually a bloke and still had male hormones. They had to strip away. Well, not officially strip away. It's still not. They're still not. Basically, they said that it was verified, then they took it away, and it's still pending. But it's gonna look like that it's gonna be stripped, and that person hasn't broke them records because they still have a lot of testosterone. But they've said through this experience that they will have like another category for just transgenders to compete in. So there's that. So now on to people comparing it to lactic acid. So there's this guy, Michael Phillips, he produces less lactic acid than a normal person, which is obviously they're saying it's a genetic advantage. Now, it is an advantage, but it's not the same as testosterone. Obviously, I couldn't go into depths with this on my Instagram, but basically, if you don't know what lactic acid is, it's to do with the energy systems. This is usually the last resort. So it's when the demand of oxygen gets higher and higher, and the liver can't meet it. That's when you hit That's when it hits the lactic system and produces lactic acid. Now, this can be an issue because when it starts to build up, this is when you'll hit lactate, is when your muscles will start to burn, and it can also affect your breathing as well. So if you do produce a less, then obviously it is an advantage, but hearing from professional athletes, it is possible to train your body so it doesn't feel the full effects of lactic acid. So your body producing less, yeah, it's an advantage because you wouldn't have to train as hard to try and bypass obviously the side effects of it, but it's not the same as testosterone, or in the case of semenya. So whoever actually made this photo up together and trying to compare the two are mentally retarded. Like, to say an insane genetic advantage is a joke. But overall, as I said, I agree with this. I think people who don't agree don't seem to understand how sports works, how the body works, or anything like that. Maybe you shouldn't comment on things that you don't know anything about. But to be fair, if she wanted to, maybe she could compete with the blokes, or is that just me? Like that would excite me. If someone told me, if I was like a competitive runner and someone told me, you're gonna have to take, your testosterone's too high, basically, I'd be asking, oh, does that mean I can compete with the blokes? Because that'd be a new challenge for me. Like, I don't, that's just me anyway. I'm probably the weirdo, weirdo situation of that. But I totally agree, with what they're saying. It's just not fair on the other competitors whatsoever. They're just not going to get a chance at all. Um, I mean, it's horrible to say, but they can't take performance enhanced drugs, so why should she be able to compete with everyone else? Because it's like she's taking enhanced sports like testosterone, but she's not. She's naturally born with it. It's a hard one. That may sound a little bit offensive, but if you think about it, it does make sense. It does make sense. But that is pretty much it for this video. I think a lot of females that are commenting against this don't seem to really understand sports in general, or, physiology of the body, and how, how a female, how testosterone can affect, the body and stuff. And I mean, to be fair, I don't know as much in sports. I more so know in bodybuilding, but it's the same thing. They have an advantage. So, yeah, unfortunately, I agree with what they are saying. And again, whoever did this photo comparison are fucking retarded. So that's it for this video. Bye, guys.